Hey Joseph, how are you?
Hi, Nate. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm very happy to have you here on the summit. You know, a lot of people who are watching are waiting because your talk is super, super interesting. The company is super interesting. Before we dive into the product, the market, the stickiness that everybody loves about it, I want to learn about you first. So maybe give us a little bit of a background about yourself, and then we'll start talk about the company.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Joseph Hajj. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Swish, and I've been here for roughly 18 months and responsible for basically strategic partnerships and internationalization here. Prior to this, I started early with Klarna. So I led the corporate development part with Klarna, worked a lot with the expansion to the US, to the UK, equity financing, and in general, strategic projects there. And then basically between Klarna and Swish, I've had my own startups and companies, which have been with mixed success, some good, some bad, but overall super happy with that. And now, working in this bank-owned world, coming back into corporate is super exciting actually, because the product that we have is, taking the Swedish bank collective together to where they are still talking about digitalization to some extent. This is, the product that they have that will take them there basically. So it's
Yeah,
super exciting.
the company is amazing. You know, we just had another summit called FinTech Nation. So we had the best fintechs from all over the world. And a lot of the speakers, and I think I wrote you that also from the visa perspective and others, all of them were talking about Swish from the Nordic market, the stickiness. I think somebody mentioned it's more popular than Snapchat. I have to
Yep.
double check. um, Unbelievable feedback from people in the industry, from other colleagues that are congratulating you from something you do right, I guess. So tell me, what is Swish?
Yeah, right. So first of all, I'd like to thank those colleagues, and I think it's Swish is a mobile payment service. We're fully based on account to account, so we don't have any card as of today, at least. Rails working on it. We have set up a unique infrastructure in Sweden, together with the Swedish banks and the local sort of clearinghouse, where we can do real time, so real time payments with central bank money. So this goes immediately, and we built that into an app that we call Swish. And Swish today is we do this year almost 700 million transactions. So we are slightly trailing behind Ideal in terms of account to account volumes, but we are the biggest one in terms of mobile payments. And in Sweden, it's been a major success. So we have, with the Swedish population between the ages of 18 to 65, 92% of all Swedes use Swish. And 87% of all Swedes in that age category did at least one purchase with Swish in July this year. And then if you look at the population between 65 and 85, 58% of Swedes use the service. So it's, just coming into a setting where you have a solid user base, is super exciting. So what we do is basically three type of services. So one is the bread and butter that we started with back in 2012, which is the P2P service. And the P2P, it's pretty simple. With a phone number or using my native contact list, I can send money to whomever I want, irregardless of which bank they are a customer with. The second leg is physical stores. So here we have two segments. One is micro merchants, the classic use case of simple static QR codes for acceptance, where you don't have to, as a micro merchant, you don't, in Sweden at least, you don't want to accept cash. And even if you did, no Swede is carrying cash. So cash in Sweden in relation to GDP, cash in circulation is less than 1.5 of GDP, which is the lowest in the world. And as a micro merchant, I'm too small to have a terminal. So the easiest, cheapest, and smoothest way for me to accept payments is through static QR codes. And that has been an extreme success for us. So we have 230,000 merchants using that particular
Wow.
service. Um, So that's on the physical side, and then we haven't come to enough traction on the large retail side, but a lot of the really, really large retailers are now starting to adopt Swish, especially now in the sort of the traction curve has been accelerated by COVID-19, because the service is on mobile, the authentication is on the mobile, you don't have to touch a terminal, and this is something that has triggered a lot of merchant cases for us. And then the third leg is e-commerce, obviously. So today we launched the e-commerce service in 2017, and already now 3 years later we are at an 8% market share of all Swedish e-commerce volumes. So main use case here is not the classical retail; it's more transportation and services. But on the classical retail side, this is one of the big focus areas for us to come into, and some of the biggest ones are in the process now to come in. So that's sort of what it is, and I think it's important to set the context too. So Swish is we are bank owned by the 6 largest banks in Sweden, and then we have an additional 6 banks participating in the scheme. So we're 12 banks in total, covering basically 100% of the market. Wow. And one of the main differences and the key to our success here, at least, is there's one app called Swish. There's one brand for all banks. So as opposed to other peers or services that we see abroad, it's not like the banks have collectively built, the rails of the infrastructure. They have built the end-to-end flow that looks, feels, and acts the same, no matter what bank you are a customer with. So.
Oh, that's good. But what makes the stickiness? How come people are so addicted to it? And is it true what I said about Snapchat? I don't know. Like, I'm not asking you like, how did it came to what it is today?
Yeah, so it is true. So again, we have 7.6 million users, and that's more than 90% of all Swedes use the service. And again, coming back to when we started back in 2012, one of the main reasons that we succeeded was that we had ubiquity from the get-go. So everyone can use the service to send money to everyone. Customer acquisition wasn't really a problem because the banks were doing the customer acquisition. And we launched in December 2012. In May 2013, we already had 1 million users. In November 2015, we had 5 million users, so less than 3 years after, which is 50% of the Swedish population. So going back even further, Sweden has been cashless, so people haven't used cash. Back in 2005, the Swedish central bank put the cost of handling cash on the commercial banks. Okay, so now the banks are incentivized commercially to reduce the use of cash. And the obvious one here back in 2005 is to push the use of cards and really start issuing cards and make sure that they can be used everywhere. And that came with a couple of other regulative changes. So the buying in stores was solved with cards, and then came Klarna and a couple of other companies that solved the online experience. But the peer-to-peer transaction, that wasn't solved with cards. You still had to use that if you were in proximity with cash or through a bank transfer, and then you would have the money in your account in 3 days or whatever. So this was a problem that the Swedish banks wanted to solve. The Swedish telcos were looking at doing the same thing. So there was, competition coming up, and that's when they pushed hard for Swish. So the initial use case, just starting from the P2P side and ensuring that there is ubiquity. Everyone can send money to everyone in real time. You don't have this lag with the same brand in one app specifically designed for payments. That basically provided the stickiness quite fast. And just looking at the ramp up again on the user side, at least, it was extreme in the beginning.
And you mentioned that you're in charge also on partnerships. How is it like? Are you guys moving fast in forming new partnerships, strategic partnerships, to evolve the product?
Both yes and no, I would say. So again, I'm new to the job, but one of the main tasks that we have been working on the last, I would say, 9 months is internationalization. So Swish is a domestic system and domestic service as of today. So as a Swede, I can use Swish to pay in Sweden to other peers in Sweden. But the consumer is not, he's global, right? So this is a problem that we will face as a domestic payment service, because the user, 15% of all our customer support errands have the same question. So why can I not use my service abroad? Why can't I send money to my Danish or Spanish or Swiss friend and so on? So we formed, last year, we formed something called the European Mobile Payment System Association, where we now are 13 of the largest mobile payment services in Europe. So Vips, Mobile Pay, Twin, Blue Code, and so on. We came together as in one partnership, in one association based in Zurich, and we said, let's solve this problem. Let's make sure that we keep payments or services domestic, but acceptance international. So basically building the rails and the standards to enable all of our users to be able to communicate with each other with their domestic service. So this is one of the biggest sort of partnerships we have engaged in now. And yeah, hopefully we will be able to come with some exciting news on this, but that's one. And then the second part is obviously, finding bank partners abroad that see what we have done here in Sweden, because there are, as we talked about before this interview, there's a number of services in this space, right? And our take here is that few of them, if any, are truly bank friendly. So the banks will have to come up with their own strategic moves to secure their issuing side, right? And how would they do this? And this is an ongoing discussion we have in a number of countries, is you need to come into the mobile phone and you need to do this as a collective, because every bank doing their own thing, it does not work, and it has not worked in any, I can give you maybe one or two examples where it might have worked, but then it's been extremely expensive. So how do you do this together and protect your issuing side? So those are the type of partnerships that we are discussing as well. And then third but not least is the partnerships on the product side. So we're a small company. We have a huge user base, and how can we basically utilize this platform of ours with merchants, users, brands? So we have the third highest brand equity of all Swedish brands after Volvo and IKEA. How can we use this to build additional products and services for our users and our merchants and our banks without having to build it ourselves necessarily? Rather use the ecosystem around us of fintechs and other type of players to provide us with the products and bring them into the app. So yeah, those are the type of partnerships that we are engaged in as of now. And I think the biggest one is moving to a platform philosophy or a platform business model, because the service operates as a platform already with open APIs and so on. So anyone can build services on Swish, but it needs to be in a more sophisticated way, I believe. And yeah, we've come quite far, but we're not fully there yet.
You said you have open APIs that people, third parties can connect and already.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a couple of examples. So what should I give you? Okay, so vending machines, for example. It's not like we build a vending machine solution. The vending machine provider is integrating to our APIs and innovating based on the API standards that we have to provide the solution in these vending machines. The POS providers are doing the same. A lot of companies are using the app-to-app switch that we have as well in order to make the experience more seamless. And this isn't necessarily something that we are developing ourselves, but rather we are putting these APIs out there and telling people, build products and services on this, take it to the market, and yeah.
Since when are you? Did you open the APIs? Like, is it a new thing, or is it? I just need to understand.
Honestly, I'm not sure. Actually, I think this has been the philosophy. I might be wrong on this one. I think this has been the philosophy from the get-go to some extent. Okay, the P2P API is not open, but the merchant APIs, we launched the e-commerce service, which is used even in physical stores. We launched that in 2017, and I believe it's been pretty much open since then.
But your vision stays the same. You want to make the payments clean and clear. You want to allow people to do that easily, right? It's still the same mission statement, but
Yeah, yeah. Basically simplifying everyday life. Because I think it's a bit egocentric to think that people think about payments the way we as nerds in the space do. But it is a fact still that that's the point. If they don't have to think about the payment, then we have succeeded to some extent. We don't want people to think about Swish. We just want it to go seamless and just work. Um, and we think the way to do this is, again, ubiquity. Like, you should be able to use Swish everywhere when you do a payment. And to do that, obviously, there's a number of things that need to come into place. Even if the service is 8 years old, the more advanced solution that we have now is only 3 years old. So there's a bunch of things we can do here to add value and remove some of the friction that is not in the payment necessarily, but that surrounds the payment. So why should I have a paper receipt for every time I pay for something? You know,
yeah.
Why should I have to bring up my H&M loyalty card every time I go to H&M? Why should I have to give them my phone number so that they can identify me and pair me with my loyalty card? These type of things is our vision. It's to simplify everyday life, but the center of all of this is the payment, and how can we facilitate everything around it, basically.
Great. I feel like, of course, the company is interesting. I was interested for a lot of time, and I have to be honest. Like, this is one of the interesting interviews I had, and I interviewed so many banks, neobanks, payment solutions from all over the world. I think your role in the company is very, very interesting. At that time, that specific time, the opportunity is enormous. Of course, you mentioned COVID. We see some change in maybe in the behavioral of the users, right?
For sure.
The data speaks, right?
The data speaks, and I think just look at the uptake we have now with people in the ages 65 to 85. These are, people that have not been digitally native before. But here we have a plus 50% uptake, and this has happened during COVID-19. But then also, I think where we come from is from the user side. So we've built the user base, and we've faced the same issues as every other company, is to come into the acceptance side. With COVID-19, a lot of the large, like the truly large merchants, have started understanding that maybe mobile payments is something I need to care about because the customer cares about it. The customer doesn't want to touch the PIN pad. So what alternatives are out there? And we're kind of fortunate in Sweden, to be honest, as well. There's basically one, and it's Swish. So yeah, definitely. And we see that in our growth numbers as well. So we grew our transactions with 108% last year, and we see, obviously, we are quite heavy on transportation and a couple of others, and they have been quite badly hit. But if you disregard from that, we have been definitely highly impacted by COVID-19 in terms of merchant acceptance.
Yeah. Amazing. How can people follow the product news, the updates, get in touch? What is the best way?
Yeah, so I recommend going to our website, swish.nu, or getswish.se. Here we are quite open, so we publish our transaction data all the time. Every month we publish the data, split in P2P, C2B, the different categories, and so on, because we believe that this yields a value to the ecosystem in general. People want to know about this, and so we are quite open, and I recommend, if people are interested, go in and read it. There you have all the material as well, and yeah, so the website is a good way. Following us on LinkedIn is another way. There we publish a lot of the use cases, and we try to do it on the edge cases. So there's this woman selling access. She produces access and she goes around and sells them. And how has Swish contributed to her business? Right? She doesn't have to have a terminal. She doesn't have to accept cash. She's using Swish as part of her business. So these type of edge cases we try to show them on LinkedIn. So I recommend you guys following us there. And then, yeah, I mean, get in touch. We're a quite small team. We're not as big as the rest of the people that you interview, but we are highly efficient and obviously always open for partnerships. So
yeah, I already have some in mind, and some are obviously watching us right now, and just everything you described helps me, and I guess others, understand what is your focus, what is your core, and how people can partner with you to be relevant. Thank you very, very much. And I enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure we will follow up with a lot of ideas. And of course, we have some mutual contacts also in this summit, right?
yeah.
And I wanted to ask one last thing before we finish. Like, is it like if I go in Sweden and I just say Swish, you know, in the street, like when I go to stores, how do they promote that they're accepting Swish? Like, you said QR, but is it like a logo, a branding, or?
Yeah, so the acceptance brand is Swish, and that's branded in the QR as well. But we don't only use QR. So we do NFC, we do Bluetooth QR, we do back end initiated payments as well. So you can do payouts. Take an insurance company, for example. I as an administrator back end can initiate the payment from my side. So there's a number of use cases, but we believe in QR codes, and it's been quite successful for us. So yeah, what you will see if you come to Sweden, you will likely see Swish in every third store, probably.
And if I just want to transfer you money, like if I say that, like Swish, everybody knows, right? It's already like a thing. So it's like a term.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a verb in the dictionary. To swish someone is to send someone money.
Exactly, so, exactly, yeah, what I wanted to emphasize. Thank you very much, Joseph, and enjoy the summit. Of course, people can network, and we'll be in touch. We'll definitely be in touch. Great work over there.
Thanks so much, Nir.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.